Best known for the mid-90s hit Stars, Hum has traditionally been lumped into the space rock category due to its droning sound and scientific and space-influenced lyrics. A lot of people agree that the band was underappreciated, but perhaps some of that was by the band's own doing. Today, let's explore whatever happened to the band Hum. Hum's origins dated back to Champaign, Illinois in 1989. By frontman and guitarist Matt Talbot's own words, he would tell Escapist magazine the band's beginnings were, and I quote, "kind of a long story, not all that interesting, the typical, hey, I sort of play guitar and I like Tad and Union Carbide, do you want to get together and jam sometime stuff." The band's name would be thought of by Talbot, with Tim Lash telling an interviewer in 1998, "There's not a lot of legend or myth behind it. Matt started the band 7 years ago and just thought it was a cool word. It was just a word he liked and it's stuck ever since then." Hum began with guitarist and vocalist Matt Talbot and Andy Switzky, who met at a cafe where Switzky worked in Champaign. They soon bonded over their musical interests and had already been involved in the local music scene, playing in various bands. They would add a drummer and a bassist, but during the band's early years, they went through a lot of lineup changes, especially bass players. The band would, however, find a long-term drummer in Brian St. Pierre, who was hugely influenced by Rush's Neil Peart, and the band found him after walking by a room he was playing in one day and hearing him perform Rush covers. The band would secure their first gigs in 1989 thanks to local act Poster Children, who they opened for as part of some benefit gigs. In fact, longtime Hum bassist Jeff Dimsey would once be a member of Poster Children. The band also gigged in and around Chicago and were well received, but despite being heralded as a Chicago band by those outside the state, Talbot would claim that Champaign was their real home, telling Billboard magazine, "Chicago isn't as receptive as smaller college towns like Champaign. We had a following there, but it took us a long time to get there." The band also considered Kansas City more of a home than Chicago, with Talbot telling Alarm magazine, "There are more dirtbags out there. It's an evil place. We just seem to fit in better, and we were always made to feel very welcome," he'd say. The band would record their first demo titled "Kissing Me Is Like Kissing an Angel" in Steve Albini's basement. The band would release their debut record Fellatio in 1991, but shortly afterwards Switzky left the band due to creative differences, being replaced by guitarist Tim Lash. Talbot would soon take over lyrical writing and fronting the band, and it wasn't too long after this Hum would lose another bassist, resulting in Jeff Dimsey, a member of Talbot's other band at the time, Honcha Overload, joining the group. The band would head to Chicago to record their second album, Electra 2000. This record represented the introduction of science and space-themed lyrics, and Hum would also appear on a handful of compilation records around this time. Hum's first two releases would be put out on local act Poster Children's own label, and Electra 2000 was well received by local press and retailers. While Seattle was the epicenter of a lot of popular rock in the early 90s, by 1993 Billboard magazine was now hailing the Midwest as the new epicenter of alternative rock. A cover story that Billboard ran in the summer of 1993 read, "Chicago, Cutting Edge's New Capital," with other publications including the New York Times soon following suit. Billboard would point to the new club openings, a rash of new signings including Veruca Salt, and even established musicians who were moving to the city, which seemed to indicate that something was on the rise. The huge success of the Smashing Pumpkins, Liz Phair, Industrial Rockers, Ministry, and Urge Overkill were also cited as evidence of the city's emerging music scene. Billboard's piece would also focus on the Chicago neighborhood of Wicker Park as ground zero for the next generation of alternative rock bands. But like changing trends, Wicker Park would soon be overtaken by music from the suburbs and surrounding regions. Bitsy Byron, who ran the company Blackball Music Video Productions, who worked with the likes of Soul Asylum and Pantera, would tell the Chicago Tribune in 1995, "Chicago's been exploited. It's happened. It's like Seattle in 1993. As soon as everybody in the neighborhood starts looking the way you do, it's time to move." Billboard also pointed to Hum's hometown of Champaign, writing, "Without much fanfare, Champaign has become a hotbed of alternative rock the past couple of years, starting with Reprise's signing of Poster Children in 1991. Champaign would also see other high-profile signings in recent years, including Hardvark, Menthol, formerly known as Mother, and Moon 7 Times. A&R man Bruce Fiora, who worked for RCA, would discover Hum while he was visiting a record store in Chicago. He would sign Hum in June of 1993, telling Billboard how it all went down, revealing, "It was October of 1992 and I was on the road with Gigolo aunts in Chicago who were doing an in-store at Blackout Records. I asked the store what cool local CDs were selling. He gave me 5 or 6, and on the way home I put on Hum's Electra 2000 and it blew me away. I tracked them down, and 3 days later, I flew back to see them play at the Lounge Acts in Chicago, and it was packed. According to Billboard magazine, the members of Hum weren't actively pursuing a major label, and several members were already playing in other bands at the time. Fior and RCA, though, weren't the only people interested in signing Hum, as their shows had already been scouted by MCA, Island Records, Beggars Banquet, Columbia, and East West Records. For Hum, though, choosing RCA was important because they sounded unlike anything on the label's roster, with Talbot telling Billboard, "RCA is all over this record. They're really working this hard." It was kind of a gamble because RCA doesn't have a huge track record with what I would consider cool bands, but we like them because they don't have anyone who sounds like us, he'd say. The band's major label debut, You'd Prefer an Astronaut, would be released in April of 1995. The marketing plans for the album had to be changed at the last minute after Washington, D.C. radio station WHFS started playing the song Stars the same week the album came out. By this point in time, the label hadn't even sent the single to radio stations, and they weren't planning on doing so for at least another month. Soon after WHFS started playing Stars, other stations across America soon followed. Tom Durr, the director of artist development at RCA, would tell Billboard, "We expected the song to react, but it reacted quicker than we anticipated. We were going to college radio first, then modern rock came at the same time. Now we're at the point where album rock radio is coming on it fast too." RCA had to scramble to issue Stars as a single, sending it out to radio stations across the country. Soon enough, Stars would become one of the top 5 most requested songs all over America on rock radio, including K-Rock in LA, WKQX in Chicago, and KTOZ in Springfield, Missouri. Brian St. Pierre would tell the St. Louis Dispatch, "Yeah, I think K-Rock helped us out the most, because from what I gather, that's the station in the country, and when they decide to add a song, all the other stations kind of follow suit." The band's label initially shipped 10,000 units of You'd Prefer an Astronaut, but thanks to the single Stars, album sales soon took off, and reorders were happening almost on a daily basis from record stores across the country. Local Champaign record store owner Phil Strang, who owned 2 shops named Record Service with 2 locations in Champaign, would be interviewed by Billboard magazine in 1995, who told the publication, "Their independent records have done well here, they're one of the best-selling local bands here, and #1 drawing band live. You'd Prefer an Astronaut is a top 5 seller for us," he'd say. The band would also get support from the biggest radio host in America at the time, Howard Stern, who loved the song Stars and spent one morning playing the song half a dozen times or so. It resulted in the band coming on the show. The appearance would prove to be a major publicity boost for You'd Prefer an Astronaut. It was also during this time the band was out on tour with the Smashing Pumpkins, Bush, and Toadies. I've covered Bush and Toadies previously on my channel and discussed their careers. The links are down below. While the band had success with Stars, their attitude shared more in common with the rock stars from Seattle than the ones from LA. Bassist Jeff Dempsey, by his own admission, would reveal that the band wasn't easy to deal with, telling Alarm magazine, "When we recorded the video for Stars, MTV came back and said that they'd put us in the buzz bin if we had some bigger name director shoot it, and we told them no, we've got our artistic integrity." Then RCA told us that if we cut I'd Like Your Hair Long by 45 seconds, they would make it the second single, but we told them no, we're not cutting it. The label would end up releasing Pod and I'd Like Your Hair Long as singles, and perhaps their unwillingness to compromise led to those songs not charting in the States. In addition to that, frontman and guitarist Matt Talbot was always cagey about the band's lyrics, with St. Pierre telling an interviewer, "Matt writes these really vague lyrics, so we'd like to leave it up to the listener to get whatever they can out of the lyrics on their own. It's kind of like cheating to say what the songs are about. That's why Matt doesn't do interviews. He's tired of telling people that his lyrics don't mean anything." Stars, meanwhile, would stay relevant in the coming years, being featured on commercials and on Beavis and Butthead. You'd Prefer an Astronaut would also prove to be an influential album on other bands, most notably the Deftones, with Chino Marino telling Quietus in an interview, "This is a heavy record, and it's where the Deftones get a big part of their influence from, tone-wise." Despite their newfound success, Hum always gave back to their community, taking bands from their hometown out on tour with them, and playing benefit shows that also featured hometown acts. You'd Prefer an Astronaut would move about 250,000 copies, well above what the label expected. 2 years later, the band would wrap up recording of their follow-up Downward is Heavenward, but due to RCA's policy of not releasing albums during the holidays, the album wouldn't come out till early 1998. The lead single, Comin' Home, would peak at number 37 on the Billboard Modern Rock Tracks chart, and it was during the tour to promote the album that the band would find themselves in an automobile accident on their way to Calgary after leaving Winnipeg, resulting in 11 gigs being cancelled. Downward is Heavenward wasn't a success, and RCA soon dropped the band from the roster. Jeff Dempsey, meanwhile, would talk about the band's lack of success with their follow-up telling Alarm magazine, "I don't blame anything on RCA. Most of it was on us. We were probably more difficult than we needed to be back then. I really loved Downward is Heavenward, but RCA didn't hear a big single. And I think that we put out a real quality album that stands up over time, but the labels need to hear a hit," he'd say. By 2000, the band would call it quits, performing a handful of reunion shows from 2003 onwards. It wasn't until 7 years ago in 2015 that the band started working on new music, and it would culminate with the release of the band's latest album, Inlet, coming out in June of 2020, their first album in over 2 decades. Inlet would end up receiving favorable reviews from critics, with Metacritic giving it a weighted average of 87 out of 100. Sadly, almost a year after the album would come out, drummer Brian St. Pierre would pass away suddenly, with the band putting out a statement that read, "Brian was a dear friend, a loving father, brother, and was an incredible person and musician. We all feel extremely lucky to have shared time and space with him. Peace and love to all those who knew Brian and those he touched. We will miss him dearly." Aside from playing in Hum, frontman Matt Talbot, according to the Riverfront Times, coaches high school football, has a family, and is a professor at Millikan University, teaching in the music department, and plays in another band named Centaur. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe, and we'll see you again on Rock and Roll Your Story sticker.